Peace Aquatic family, I hope that everyone is doing well, and I hope that everyone is starting their 2019 off on the right foot. I know that I have been, so I'm doing my best to, lead by example. And I will begin to show you things that I have accomplished and that I have been working on behind the scenes, which I'm excited about. But this video right here is to touch on the R.Kelly situation and the R.Kelly madness. I'm going to do a two-part video to this. This video will be on R.Kelly, and then I'm going to do a second video that is going to be on Aaliyah. I don't want to tie these into two videos because there's a reason why they keep on trying to tie Aaliyah back to R.Kelly, and even after her transition, all of these years later, still wanting to have her be a focal point in what is taking place with R.Kelly. So starting off, I want to remind people about the name that R.Kelly was giving himself during that chocolate factory era. He was calling himself the Pied Piper. So let's get into what the Pied Piper means. Okay. So here's the meaning of Pied Piper, the German legend of Pied Piper. Pied Piper is a musician who rids Hamelin of its rats by leading them with his piping to the river where they drown. The Pied Piper, again, a musician, so he lured people in and calmed people down with his music. And it says where they drown. Then it says, in revenge for not being paid, because they were telling the Pied Piper for him ridding the town of its rats and him playing this music that they were going to pay him for, what he was doing. So in his revenge for not being paid, he pipes the village children to a mountain where they disappear. That is, let me try and go up some. I don't know if y'all can see this. That's the definition of Pied Piper. So if you remember, when he was on trial and the sex tape happened and took place, and it was showing him in the obviously I never saw that. That's something I would never even want to see. But from everyone that has been speaking on it and all of the media and everything that jumped on the story and what happened, he was in that video with the underage girl, and she wasn't, appearing in court and different things like that. And behind the scenes, her and her family just decided, not to no longer involve themselves in the situation. So, he ends up being acquitted, and people just act like nothing happened. It's back to his music, and he releases this Chocolate Factory album, of course, that sexual name. And of course, when you look into the symbolism, I'm going to have y'all do y'all homework on this one. Look into the symbolism of that Willy Wonka chocolate factory. He has that album that has Ignition, of course, which ends up being one of his still biggest songs to this day. Some people don't even want to hold R.Kelly accountable or question him or anything like that, just based on that song Ignition, which is a very sexual song. But during that whole Chocolate Factory era, which was around 2003, he then started calling himself the Pied Piper. He then changed his name to Pied Piper. He was calling himself the Pied Piper of R&B. He was no longer addressing himself as R.Kelly. He was calling himself the Pied Piper, and he went and became that demonic alter ego, Pied Piper. And it ties into the two, and it's very symbolic, him choosing that name. And he was always wearing a mask during this time, wearing a mask. And of course, we know what the mask represents. When someone's wearing a mask and they're hiding, they're going and hiding, and they're trying to, cover up and not be seen. People do masks for different reasons. And he's parading around. People are still buying his music. He's still touring. He goes on to do the Best of Both Worlds with Jay-Z, who of course was once connected to Aaliyah as well. You can go to Google Images, see pictures of Aaliyah wearing the Rockefeller chain, of her hugged up with Jay-Z. They were close, but didn't fully go public about what they were. Next thing you know, she starts dating Damon Dash, who of course is Jay-Z's partner, and not too long after the best of both worlds with Jay-Z and R.Kelly, then Damon Dash and Jay-Z, you know, are no longer working together and doing business together, just sever ties, and it just never, they never reconnected. It never was the same. But with that Pied Piper, R.Kelly was letting it be known, you know, he was still luring the public with his music. He was still luring the public with his music while still disappearing and still dealing with these underage females. And he was letting it be known in a very secretive, demonic, low vibrational way, because of course back then in 2003, people aren't on, you know, Google like they are now. People aren't on YouTube like they are now. It's still, you know, it's more so is, you know, the era of 106 in Park and like, you know, MTV and like the media. People watch the news for information. Newspapers are still going around. That was that era. So it was a different time period then. So people weren't really connecting the dots with this Pied Piper. Meanwhile, he's letting people know subliminally, you know, I got away with this. I'm going to continue to lure you with my music as for as long as I can, while I still, you know, I got acquitted, and I'm still going to disappear and do what it is that I'm doing. So that is why, and I always botch her name, Ilana Van Zet, and I hope I said her name correctly, who of course does the Fix My Life. She's an author, a motivational speaker. That is why she was saying she wants to also hold accountable the people that were around him. You know, no one is questioning or speaking about his team. You know, the people around him in the studio, knowing that, you know, he had bedrooms in there and he had the secret sex dungeon. No one is, you know, questioning, okay, the management, the personal assistant, you know, the different people that travel with him, the different people, you know, whether it's housekeeping, whatever it may be, these different people who've seen these women, but he still can lure them, you know, to keep, basically he's buying people off with finances. He's calming people and luring people and silencing people with the music, you know, the Pied Piper. So he let people know what it was he was doing, but it took a while for people to be able to catch on, and people still just, and of course when you're talking about the dark Kabbalah, when you're talking about satanic things that take place, especially in Hollywood and behind the scenes in the music industry, they're going to profit off of him as much as they can, especially when they know that during that age, we weren't in the age of Aquarius like we are now. So that's another reason why all this stuff is coming out now. But what people need to be mindful of is to keep that same energy with R.Kelly as with all of the other men that have been exposed, you know, that aren't you know, black or melanated men, you know, the Weinsteins and the, you know, the other Caucasian men, even with you know, Trump and other people that have been exposed with, you know, sexual misconduct, sexual abuse, whether it is molestation, rape, whatever it is, going against you know, someone's consent, going against someone's rights, going against of course if someone is underage, you know, that it's just, what's taking place is horrible, and people just have to keep that same energy that they have with, you know, speaking out against R.Kelly now after all of these years, and people have to also question the people around him that have been okay with this and that have been doing music with him and that have been producing music with him, being in the studio with him, traveling with him, touring with him. Those people have to be held accountable too, because it's not just him who knew about these girls being used, abused, and taken advantage of. And the conversation about human trafficking and sexual abuse during this age of Aquarius is so important to be talked about. It's something that is always swept under the rug, which is why women go unprotected, which is why women continue to be vulnerable and they won't speak out, and you know, they're afraid. I'm glad that this conversation is finally happening so that, you know, stories can be told and truth can be exposed, and so that people can really truly begin to heal. So with all of this information coming out, with, you know, the different women, you know, the underage females, with of course his ex wife, even the disappointment that his own daughter is speaking out and speaking and is talking about. Also, of course, with his just track record. There's an interview with him being asked, and I wish I remember the gentleman's name that was interviewing him. His name starts with a T, I believe, but it won't come to me right now. But he's asking him. He said he's asking him and said, is he attracted to or he said, asking something like, does he date or attracted to like young girls or something like that. The question was something of that nature, and R.Kelly's response was, when you're saying young, how young are you talking? And it just, that alone is very just eerie. It's like, what do you mean, how young are you talking? Like, you know. So people have been getting signs for a long time, but was in sleeper mode, were being lured by the Pied Piper. People were being paid off and bought off, and people were going along with being silenced, and were covering for him for, you know, this whole entire time. And now this age of Aquarius is bringing a lot of things out. So he won't be the first. He's not the first, and he won't be the last to be exposed and brought out. Now, of course, there also is the Salem witch trial that's going on. So some people that are being exposed and that are being aired out, or, you know, that are these, everyone isn't going to be guilty. I'm just going to say that everyone, because it's going to turn into this big Salem witch trial, and it already is what is taking place. For an example, with Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby, he is innocent. Bill Cosby did not do what they were exposing of him to do. Same with Neil Tyson DeGrasse. He did not do what they are exposing him to do. So certain people that go against the dark cabal, or certain people that are wanting to come out of certain agreements and contracts and things that they have made, they're going to get backlash by having this happen to them, by being accused and having the public go against them. So not everyone who is brought to the forefront and exposed or accused, not everyone is going to be guilty. Some will be, a lot are, but not all of them. So you just have to know how to discern between it. You have to use your intuition, and you have to also do your research on, you know, what it is that is taking place. But again, I'm going to do a separate video to get into Aaliyah and why they keep on using her and tying her into R.Kelly. So that is the video that I have for this situation. And my message to the women, whether you are a young woman, whether you are you know, in your teenage years, an adult, an elder, just know the importance of us protecting each other, and us being comfortable with this conversation, and us being able to trust each other when we are exposing, or when we are saying that something happened, or something isn't right, something isn't okay. Mothers, listen to your daughters, because this is something that is it's widespread like a wildfire, what is taking place with sexual misconduct, sexual abuse, sexual assault. human trafficking is horrible. It's something that's taking place every single day, which is another reason why I started Melanated Mermaids, and I'm going to begin to do a lot more work with Melanated Mermaids on this specific topic of the human trafficking, because it's really ridiculous in major cities such as here in Atlanta, Houston, New York, Jersey, Cali. Like, it's certain places are even worse than others, and this is something that has to be, we have to shed light on this, and we have to hold people accountable. So this is, with this being the age of Aquarius, it is the time to do it, because if you are going to be silent or be okay with someone being harmed or someone being abused, and you know it's taking place, and you won't do the right thing or say the right thing, and during this age of Aquarius, you are really going to get karma, heavy karma, and reap what you sow, because this is the era, and this is the dimension to be able to earn your stripes when it comes to ascension. So be mindful of that. But again, I'll be back with another video, sending you love, light, healing, and protection.